Hey guys, this is Brian again from Geeked Out Solutions. So in today's video, we're going to talk about a pretty pretty major topic that people have been bringing up, which is how to host your Mycroft instance securely, either locally or how to host it securely in the cloud. And so today we're going to talk about how to do that using DigitalOcean. I picked DigitalOcean for this video because it's just easier for, I think, for new people to get started than Linode and maybe some of the others. You could use any of them for this matter, but for this video and the sake of making it easier, I chose to do DigitalOcean. So in the description of the video, you'll have a link where you can go and get free $10 for signing up, and that'll cover this instance for 2 months basically, and then it'll just be $5 a month to host this the way that we're going to set it up. So I've already got my Docker here set up just to make it quicker, but basically what you would do is you would go create a droplet, and I'll just spin one up so you can see how it works. And then one-click apps, you're going to want to go to Docker CE for Community Edition on 1604. You're going to pick the $5 a month, whatever your data center region is. If you want any kind of additional stuff, private networking, that kind of thing. If you have an SSH key or something, you could put that in there. Then you could just name it, whatever you want to name it here, and then create it. You can also add tags to make it easier so you know this is Mycroft or whatever. And then it's going to build it. And when it's done, you're going to have something like this with an IP address and everything that you can then either go here and access the console directly that way and log in with the root user and password that they email you when the device is set up. Or you could do what I did, which is basically just SSH'd in to my container directly via the IP, and then once you log in for the first time, it'll ask you to change the password, so you'll put your own secure password in, and then that's what you can log in with going forward. I would recommend using the DigitalOcean guides to secure the machine and lock it down, and get it to where the root user can't log in and all that stuff, and set up SSH keys and all that. They have really good documentation for that. I'm not going to go over that, but that would be something I would recommend you do as a part of this as well. So that being said, we now have our Docker instance up and running. You can see if I do Docker PS, I already have some stuff running here. So for this setup, I'm going to show you in a minute how this all works. So just in order to bring all of this down and everything, I'm going to do a little bit of cleanup. And so what I've done is I've gone into the Geeked Out Solutions proxy, and I went and I cloned this. So you just copy this, and I'm gonna go ahead and CD into that folder. So I've already ran the git clone blah blah blah, ran that, and then I'm now CDing into that folder. And you'll see I've got two different things here. I've got a Mycroft folder and then the proxy folder. And so what we need to do for the guide here, and I'm just going to go real quick and create a that's not what I wanted. All right. So we're going to follow the instructions. We've already cloned our repo. We're now and we've now CD'd into that. So we're going to CD into the Mycroft folder. Or sorry, we're already in that. So we're going to CD into the proxy folder. And you'll see I already created a SSL directory. So I'm just going to remove our, and I'm going to go ahead and do I'm going to take down what I've already built so I can show you guys how this would work in a minute. So I'm going to just do an rm-rf on the SSL folder, and you'll see now I don't have one. So in order to make it, I'm just going to make dir SSL. I'll already have this SSL folder up, hopefully by the time the video loads, so you won't actually have to make this folder. But either way, now we have the SSL folder. So if I cd into SSL, now we're going to run this command here that's going to create our certs. Now, I'm naming these Mycroft.key, Mycroft, so you can name these whatever you want. So I'm going to name mine the way that I'm naming my domain just to make it easier for me. So I'm going to name this Mycroft-secure. because that's going to be my domain. My domain is going to be mycroft-secure.lackey.io. That's going to be my domain. So I'm going to put those two things in. I'm going to say, all right, I'm a US. I'm from North Carolina. My town is Clayton. Put in my organization. You don't need organizational unit. Here I'm going to put the actual domain, so it's going to be mycroft-secure.lackey.io. I'm going to give it an email. And now you'll see I have those two files there. So the next part of the instructions are, oh, we need to bring up Mycroft and all that, right? So let's do that. So we're going to cd up two directories, and now we're at the main directory. We're going to cd into Mycroft. I'm going to take down what I already brought up so that it's not already running, since this was already previous up here for a test. And so now we're going to run, like it says here, and cd into the folder and then docker compose up. So docker-compose up d. And this is basically going to spin up a Mycroft container. So if I do a docker ps now, you'll see I have my Mycroft apt1s now running. So in order to make sure that's working correctly, I like to execute a bash prompt to get into it, because I've been having issues with the Mycroft container actually starting up the services correctly and working. So I want to verify that that's all working before we go too much further with everything. So to do that, we're going to do a docker exec it on the app, and then we're going to start up the bash prompt. And so by doing this, it's going to put me into an interactive bash prompt inside of that container. And so now you'll see I'm in the main Mycroft AI directory, which is really just the main source version if you're using Git or whatever. So in this case, I want to do the mycroft.sh, and I'm going to do a start-c, so that way it only brings up what I want it to. We don't need the voice and stuff, since this is a container. It's not going to really be doing voice. So the -c will only bring up those pieces that we really truly need. And so by doing the -c, we should see it kind of kill off some of these other screens and start everything up. And now if we do the start.sh CLI quiet, now we can see we get what time is it. So we know it's working, right? And if I say what is the weather, or well, we'll come back to that in a minute. So now Control PQ will take me out of that and leave it running. So it's still running, as you can see. So now we have our Docker or our container up for Mycroft, and it's running. So now we could start with the next piece, which is getting the proxy going. So in order to get the proxy going, we're going to go up two directories, or one directory, sorry, and cd into the proxy folder. Now there's two files in here that we need to modify depending on how you've changed things. So the first one is the default, or sorry, one file we need to modify is the default.conf. And so you're going to nano that file. And what you need to change is this piece. This is normally going to say .example.com or something, for example. So you want to change this so that it's your domain. So in this case, mine's going to be mycroft-secure.lackey.io. And since I changed the cert names, I have to change those as well here and name them here as well, because as a part of the build process, we take those certs and we copy them from the root directory here and outside of the container, and we copy them into the container for the proxy, so that way it has the certs. So once you've modified these three sections here, basically, you hit a Control O to save it, hit Enter, Control X to quit, and now we should be able to do a Docker compose build and build our image. So now if I do a Docker images, you'll see that we have the proxy, and it was created 4 seconds ago. So now we could do Docker compose up D. And this is going to spin up the proxy. And you'll see now we have a proxy serving up on port 443 externally in 8181, and I forgot to take out the 80, so it's still doing 80 internally, but it's not externally, and I'll take that out and clean it up. So either way, we have our 443 and 8181 now through the proxy. So if you were running locally, you could come over and run this code and you'd be like, oh, great, it's going to work, right? Except now you're getting certificate verify failed, right? So if you're running local, this is fine because now you could take these two certificates, sign, get them get them verified on your local machine, put them in your, your directory or whatever, wherever your self-signed certs and everything go. And now you could run this code locally via a secure connection. So you would be making secure WebSocket calls now, and it would work. However, for us, because we're wanting it to be this, domain name, it has to be a cert that's signed by a third party, like Let's Encrypt, for example, is what we're going to use. So the next piece here is to do that. So now that we've gone through and got the proxy up, now we actually need to go inside of the proxy and set up Let's Encrypt. Now this next part I'm going over, there are ways of doing this with Docker so it's automated and you don't have to do some of this stuff, but it was a little tricky, I think, to show people for the first time, so I opted not to do that. So we're going to manually make these changes inside of the proxy. Obviously, if this proxy were to go down, and come back up again, you would have to redo this because all of this is stored inside of the proxy for now, but later in another video I'll show you how to extract that stuff out so that you could spin this up and down, to your liking kind of thing. So that being said, we're going to run this command. So we're just going to copy this, paste it over here. And now we're just going to follow these commands. So @get update, and then apt-get install gpg software properties. These are just some things required for the CertBot. I'm just going over the CertBot page, which is actually this. So I'm just running this stuff basically. So the next piece here is we're going to add the repository in for the CertBot once this is finished. Should be about done. All right, so now we're going to run that. We're going to hit enter. And then another apt-get update. If you get an error at the end of this, that's fine, it's normal. Apt-get install python certbot nginx-y. So this is the piece that's going to auto set up our configuration for us so that we don't have to do it. And now we just run the certbot, that command, and it's going to find, it should find our site, which it does. So I'm just going to hit 1 because I only have the one site, and that's what I wanted to secure. I'm going to give it an email. I'm going to agree to the terms of service. It's going to go out. It should hit our site, verify everything's good, get the verification, clean up the challenge, create the certificate. It's then going to update. So now I'm going to hit 2 because I want it to secure all requests. And now, if everything worked correctly, we should be able to go out to SSL Labs. That was a previous test. So if we go to SSL Labs, test your server. Here we're going to do mycroft-secure.lackey.io. And while that's running, I'm going to come over here, and now if we rerun this, if everything's working. All right, so now we're getting something about name or service not known. So let's just make sure our stuff is set up to Docker. go into the bin bash, and we are going to just cat the logs real quick, see what's going on with this. So everything should be running still. Oh, I know what it is. So I forgot to tell you guys that by default, I forgot that yeah. So the firewall's turned on by default on the Docker container, or sorry, on the Docker instance. So in order to get this working, we need to do a UFW allow, and we're going to allow 443, and we're going to do UFW allow 8181. And now if I do a UFW status, you should see those are there. And now if I come over here, what is it saying? Name or service not known. Let's try this again. If everything is working, we should be getting this data back. Oh, that's going to be something it doesn't know how to answer yet. So let's change that to time. There we go. So this is just old code, I guess, that wasn't working right or something. Or maybe now it's going to work right. Yeah, it just took it a minute to get everything done. So as you can see here, this is the starter. This is just basic boiler code that's creating a secure socket connection to mycroft-secure.lackey.io, and it's going to the /core. And now I'm just routing that into the actual container. Container runs that command, gets that value back, passes it securely back through the proxy, who then gives it back to you over a secure socket. So you'll see that I'm basically asking it, I can get rid of these. So I'm just asking it what time is it, and it's giving me back, the time. So you can see that the response, the way I get it is the utterance and then the expect response. That's what's in the object. And then I'm just printing that message. Currently 8:37 is what we're actually getting back. So that's it, right? That's all there really is to getting this going. Now, obviously, if you want to install skills and things like that inside your container, then that goes back to the part where I was telling you before. You could do a Docker, you just do a Docker exec IT, and then you could type Mycroft and tab it out, and it'll tab out the name of the container. And then you would just do a bin bash. And let's say, for example, I want this to use my new TV skill. So I have a skill you may not be aware of that's finds a TV show. So you can just install this one with this command inside of the container. And you will get an error, but it still creates it. It's because this doesn't have a virtual environment, but you'll see that the TV show is still there now. So now I could actually come back over here and now ask it something, and it's probably going to ask me to pair the device, which is the next piece that we'll have to go over here, which if everything's working correctly, it should give me that back up here. So I'm going to run it in this one, and we're going to ask it. And the only difference between this one and the other one is this is a always open. It doesn't close out the event, the WebSocket. So if I need to get more than one response back kind of thing, I can see what it's doing. So in this case, I'm going to ask it, when is the next episode of Game of Thrones, for example? And if everything's working, boom, you can see the next showing of Game of Thrones, blah, blah, blah. Now, the reason I don't have to pair this device is because I've already paired this before. And when I paired this before, as I was showing you, you'll see we have this identity, right? So the reason that's there is because we're mapping the root Mycroft home directory that's inside of the container outside of the container and putting it inside of this folder. So now when I spin this container up each time, I don't have to repair it because I already paired it once. Now, let's just say, for example, that this is a new setup, right? And you do need to pair it. Well, the way that you could pair that, there's two different ways. You could do it through the CLI and do all that, or you can interact with it here. So I can just come here and I'm going to basically say pair my device again. And if everything works correctly, I don't know if pair is actually, let's verify it. It might be one of the skills missing. I'm currently working with the team to get all these skills to where they're auto installing correctly. For some reason, they're not installing correctly, so we're just going to go out to github.com, Mycroft, and we're going to go to the skills. And all the way at the bottom, all the ones that say skill dash, these are the default ones. So we can just click the pairing one, get the URL for it here, and we're just going to do an MSM install. And now if I come back over and say pair my device, now you'll see we get the information to pair it. So now we would go, I'm just going to open up a new window. Oops. And we're going to go to home.mycroft.ai, go to devices all the way at the bottom, add new device, give it that registration code. So in this case, it's going to be MLFPMM. I'm going to say it's other. I'm just going to say it's a container, and I'm going to say that it's a DigitalOcean, right? And now that device is paired. So now if I ask it back to something like, what is the weather? Oh, and I'm getting that because I didn't kill the other loop. So if I ask it again, it should come back. And this is another problem I kept noticing where some of the default skills, for whatever reason, just were not being installed. And the way I figured out that we could get around it is by actually just coming in and stopping this one more time. And then if you do another, just start-C again. Sometimes it will kick in the skills. In this case, it doesn't seem to be working. So the same way that we did the other one, if we want the weather, we're just going to come back and go to the weather skill, click it, copy it, MSM install it. And now if I come back and rerun this again, you'll see that, sorry, wrong one, rerun this again. Now you'll see that I get the weather output. So I hope this was helpful. I know it could get a little confusing. Unfortunately, this is some of the stuff I'm trying to work and clean up for you guys for the Docker image. I've been spending a lot of time on it, and it's still not completely there. But this is how you can spin up a secure Mycroft instance locally, or in this case, in the cloud, and have it so that now, for example, if you have, say, something like the widget, right, I could come in and now tell it to just do WSS. And instead of having to type all of this now, we're just going to tell, okay, well, you're going to go to Mycroft secure.lackey.io. And it should come back on in a second. Just a second here, turn it on. There it goes. So now if I ask it, you can see I'm getting the results from that remote instance. And if I do something like, when is the next showing of master? Oh, sorry, next episode. You can see, so that's hitting that remote instance. So you can see the benefits of this. Now I'm able to send remote connection security through the widget. I'm going to work with Seymour and the others to get the Android app working through secure WebSockets as well. So now you can access your Mycroft instance no matter where you're at via your phone and that sort of thing. So I hope the video was informative. If you have questions or concerns, please reach out to me on the Mattermost community. I also will have some other stuff in here as far as links to my Patreon and other things that I've got going on. And I hope it was an informative session. I hope you learned from it. If something's not clear, please let me know and I'll update the documentation. But other than that, have a good one and I'll see you in the next video.